Krypton season finale, The Phantom Zone. So this was definitely one heck of a finale. Just really crazy. I was just like, all right, well, what's going to change? What are they going to do to kind of switch up the whole universe of what is Superman and his origin and Krypton and all that good stuff? And it was basically everything. I mean, it's just not the origin of Superman anymore. It was like, okay, maybe they'll change up a little thing and it'll kind of be like, for anyone who might be familiar with the comic of Superman Red Sun, it's where instead of falling in the U.S., he falls in like Moscow or something. So it's like, okay, he's it's a different type of Superman, different morals and things like that. And I was like, okay, maybe it'll be that sort of small little thing. And then it's like, nope, he is full on militant. Although I guess he's still, obviously they have to explain it. Because I was like, all right, well, if Zod takes over, and also, of course, they changed everything that happened as far as Brainiac taking Kandor. I was like, well, how is Superman even in existence anymore? But then they show it like pretty fast that the answer we kind of been waiting for since 2 episodes back with what's going on with Adam Strange and where he ended up at is that he is not on Earth, which is what they kind of made it seem because it looked like he was just in a normal city, but he's walking around and he's in like this super, I would assume it's like a far future version of Kandor where it looks like it's just Earth because everything's changing. And he even says at the end, it's like, we're not going to do the rank list or anything like that. Like, everyone's going to be basically put into the army. Like, that's how he did it because it's Zod. And so it kind of changed how the world worked. There was no like kind of crappy version of the city and then everything else looked good. It was like, here it is. And that could have admittedly just been, it could have totally been Earth and just like a little chunk of Earth where obviously Zod came down and was like, I hate Earth because it made Superman and now I'm going to change everything and we're going to go to Earth and rule it. And maybe that's what happened there. And eventually, obviously, Brainiac gets out at some point because Adam was, teleported into the future. I would assume it's the future of either Earth or they just made, Krypton is like a specific city that just looks like Earth. And that's what that was. It was like either a chunk of Krypton, which could have been Kandor, like way in the future, or it could have legitimately been Earth, like, and they just happened to have a statue there of Zod, and the Earth was also overrun by Krypton. So a lot of different things there, and we just kind of have to wait and see. But obviously, Superman is still born. He still gets the cape, which if they're doing it based off of at this, they've changed everything. So it's like, I can't even say if they're doing it based off of like the Man of Steel stuff because it's so different now. But whatever origin they're doing, they kind of have to explain how, how he still exists. Because it was like, okay, well, they saved his cape, like it all came back, which is a cool looking sequence. Because at first I thought it was like DNA strands, and I was like, what is going on here? Because it was like, it looked like electricity and some DNA like bonding together, and I was like, what the heck is Brainiac doing? And then I was like, oh, this is the cape. Like, I realized once it got to the other color, I was like, oh, that's the cape coming back together. But it was like, all right, they saved everything. They stopped Kandor, which somehow, or stopped Brainiac from taking Kandor, which somehow actually saved him. And I was like, well, that's very interesting. And then we see that it actually changes, like the symbol changes from the hope symbol to, the Zod symbol, which I thought was definitely cool. So I thought that was awesome. I just loved it. I was like, that's just a cool way to do it. I just thought that was very interesting. I'm really curious what they're going to do with Jaina because she never actually shows up in this episode. So she might end up becoming like the new rebellion, which depending on whether or not Adam is actually in the future version of Krypton or a future version of Earth, well, I guess either way, it doesn't matter. It kind of would seem like if Jaina decided to rebel, it didn't work because wherever that is, Zod is still in control. So I would assume if Jaina does decide to come back and wants to rebel, it's not really gonna, play out too well for her. So I'm definitely looking forward to where we're headed. But it's Zod taking control, Lyta by his side. I can't even think of the one dude's name. Like, I can never remember that other guy's name. But the guy who has, like, the super sweet bionic arm, I was like, that's a really cool design. And then they covered it up because, it cost money for all that CG. But I was like, that's a super sweet design where you can see all these different curves in it and stuff. But the two of them are by his side, and Zod is like, bringing in the rank list. Everyone's fighting in the army. Of course, they have to do the kneel before Zod at the very end. But I loved it. I was like, that's a great way to end it. Adam Strange is still stuck. Like, it's so hard to say. I was like, either he's in the future or either way, he's in the future. So something has been captured and it's in some version of this now alternate future. So it's either Earth that's been taken over and that was the chunk that, Brainiac stole, or it is Kandor and he, kind of came back after being trapped in the Phantom Zone, where they reference the fact that he can, with Seg's grandfather, it was like, you can see the past, present, and the future. And I was like, well, that seems like almost the worst place to put Brainiac. So somehow he gets out, which whatever level intellect is, like, okay, that kind of makes sense that somehow at some, whatever point in time there is or isn't in the Phantom Zone, at some point, Brainiac would definitely escape. So it kind of makes sense that that would end up happening. And Adam being sent into the future, he's just like, yep, he's trapped inside of a city as well. So I'm excited to see how he's supposed to get out of that as well. But it should be fun. I'm looking forward to season 2. It was definitely a fun ride with this show. Definitely more than I expected. I mentioned that from the very beginning, but this whole season, it was just like, wow, I thought this would kind of just be like, let's see what happens. But it was really good. It was definitely really, really fun, bringing Zod in, showing off Doomsday, and then we have like the teaser at the end where Doomsday actually wakes up and he breaks out. So who knows what the heck that means. And we really don't know how they're doing time travel technically, because it's like, okay, well, the cape was saved, but then it changed a little bit after. So maybe it's kind of, it just depends on how they decide to do it, because Doomsday breaking out may not be in that current version of the timeline, and then once he actually does interact with Zod, that'll change the future. So we'll just have to wait and see how all that stuff plays out. But I'm definitely looking forward to whatever they do for season 2. But I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was definitely fun. I'm excited to see where we're headed. I love the fact that they actually are changing like the full symbol, and it was like, the symbol that you knew is no more and it's destroyed. So season 2 is going to have the Zod symbol instead of the Hope symbol. So I thought that was actually pretty sweet. But definitely looking forward to season 2 and how everything is just supposed to end up playing out. They beat Brainiac. He's in the Phantom Zone. And it's just like, all right, well, things are kind of good, but they're also kind of bad because it's Zod. So we'll see what happens there. But of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. And now that we have officially reached the end of the first season, are you guys excited for a season 2? Are you good and just let it go where it's at? Do you, what do you guys want to see? Do you want to see more? Do you not want to see more? Personally, like I said, I'm excited for a season 2. I think this show kind of defied expectations for me, at least. So I'm definitely looking forward to a season 2, especially with what they've changed for the storyline. I always love that stuff, like alternate histories and stuff of, super famous characters, literally the first superhero ever. And they're changing his origin and what happened, and his greatest enemy is now the leader of his home planet. So it's like, what do you do in a story where Zod takes over Krypton? I want to know that story because I just love that. So I think that's a sweet idea. So I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, definitely want to know if you guys are interested in this season 2, not interested. If you are, of course, I want to know what other random references or characters you guys want to see kind of come into effect. I feel like they might bring somebody else in just to save Adam Strange. So I think that would be cool. I can't think of who they'd pick. Maybe they'd probably pick, some more obscure characters, even though I mentioned this before, Adam Strange has been around for a long time. And somebody mentioned that to me. It's like, yeah, I know he's been around forever, but I'm not going to catch up on that character. He's so old. And also, admittedly, I don't really care. But I am curious if they'll bring in some more lesser known characters. I kind of like when shows do that, when they bring in lesser known comic characters, but they do them right. That's like honestly one of my favorite things, just because it's like, that's something, it's just cool. Like, it's just a thing to do. Oddly enough, that's kind of what the Marvel movies did, because nobody cared about Iron Man until those movies came out. So it's kind of like that a little. But they did that with Adam Strange. I thought it was cool in this. I'm still not gonna go out and buy a bunch of Adam Strange comics, but I like his character in this, and I'm excited to see where they go with that. Like, who else they kind of bring in, who else we get to see as far as heroes as well as villains, because Brainiac may or may not return. I was gonna say they might do like the other Brainiacs, but pretty much every Brainiac outside of the original is actually a good guy, so they probably won't do that because they're all good guys instead outside of him. So we'll see what happens there, but I'm definitely looking forward to season 2. Like I said, definitely want to know what you guys thought about the finale, and if you are interested in season 2, what you guys want to see, hopes or predictions as well. So please put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.